I need you to stop coming here." She said it so softly I almost missed it, but I heard every word. I was standing by her bed with a paper cup of bad coffee in one hand and a children's book in the other, the kind with stars on the cover because my daughter had made me bring it. Claire looked pale, tired, angry in that quiet way that hurts more than shouting. "If I die," she said, keeping her eyes on me, "you do not get to lose another woman in this room." Something in my chest went still. I should have said she was being dramatic. I should have told her she was not dying. I should have said anything normal. Instead, I said the worst thing I could have said. "I was already losing myself before I met you." That made her finally look at me, not at the coffee, not at the stupid book in my hand, at me. And once those words were out, there was no pulling them back. Because they were true, too true, she swallowed hard. "Then why are you here, Ethan?" I had asked myself that same question every night for weeks. Why was I standing in a hospital room that was never supposed to matter to me? Why did a stranger feel like a promise I had no right to make? And what would happen to all of us if I could not walk away now? I did not meet Claire Bennett on purpose. I met her because I got a room number wrong on one of the worst afternoons of my life. At the time, I told myself it was nothing, a mistake, a pause. One strange moment in a hospital hallway. I had flowers in my hand and grief in my throat, and too many things in my life that still did not feel real. My wife had been dead for 6 months. I still hated saying that sentence, even inside my own head. Dead, not gone, not lost, not passed on, dead. Rebecca had been the kind of person who made rooms warmer just by entering them. She laughed with her whole body. She cried at stupid commercials. She could burn toast and still act like breakfast was a major success. She loved loud music in the kitchen and cheap notebooks and sunflowers because, in her words, they looked like they had decided to survive. After she died, the house turned into a place full of chores. Dishes, bills, laundry, lunches, bedtime, school forms, dentist calls. My whole life became a list of things I could not forget because our daughter needed me to keep being a father while I was very bad at being a person. Lily was 7. She still slept with one sock on and one sock off. She still believed there was meaning in cloud shapes. She still looked at me like I could fix things. That was the hardest part. She trusted me at the exact time I trusted myself the least. The day I opened the wrong hospital door, I was supposed to visit Tom. Tom had worked with Rebecca. He was one of the only people who did not disappear after the funeral. He brought pizza when I forgot to eat. He texted terrible jokes at midnight. He never said healing takes time. He just stayed. He had gone in for a simple surgery and sent me a room number in a text that looked clear at the time and stupid later. I grabbed sunflowers on the way because they were the only flowers I knew how to choose. I remember standing in that hallway looking at the door already tired. Not body tired, soul tired. The kind that makes every small task feel louder than it is. I walked in without knocking, and everything in me stopped. She was alone. That was the first thing I felt before I even thought it. Not sick, not sleeping, not dying, alone. The chair beside her bed was empty. No jacket over the back, no half-read magazine, no flowers, no card, no charger plugged into the wall. No sign that anyone had stood where I was standing and said, "I'm here." The room looked untouched by love. And for one ugly second I saw my own future sitting there. Not the hospital, the emptiness. A life reduced to motions. Work, parenting, sleep, repeat. No witness, no warmth. No one left who knew the old version of me. I should have backed out. I should have found Tom. Instead, I walked to her bed and set the sunflowers down. Bright yellow in a room that looked like it had forgotten color. She did not open her eyes. I remember whispering, "Sorry." I still do not know if I meant sorry for entering, sorry for leaving, or sorry that I understood the room too well. Then I walked out and found Tom on the right floor, in the right room, very much alive and very much annoyed that I came empty-handed. When I told him what happened, he stared at me for a second and then smiled in this sad way that hit me right in the ribs. "Rebecca would have loved that," he said. That sentence stayed with me longer than it should have. So did the room. So did the woman in it. For 3 days I told myself to forget it. That should have been easy. I had enough to do. Client deadlines, grocery runs, Lily's school pickup, the deep private panic that comes at 2 a.m. when a child coughs once in the next room and you sit up like the world is ending again. But the woman in room 847 kept coming back to me, while washing dishes, while packing Lily's lunch, while standing in the cereal aisle trying to remember which brand she liked now because grief had changed even her breakfast opinions. On the fourth day, Lily looked up from the table while drawing stars on construction paper and asked, "Dad, are sunflowers sad flowers or happy flowers?" I froze with a spoon in my hand. "Happy, I think," I said. She shook her head. "No, they're both." I laughed a little. "How can a flower be both?" "What?" She held up her drawing without looking at me. "Because they look like they know dark exists, but they still turn anyway." Kids should not be allowed to say things like that before dinner. I stood there staring at her, feeling Rebecca all over that sentence. That evening I drove back to the hospital. I wish I could tell you I had some noble reason. I did not. I was curious, troubled, maybe lonely enough to call it kindness. This time I brought a book, Rebecca's favorite novel, Worn Edges, coffee stain on the bottom corner. The spine broken in 3 places because she had read it so many times it felt less like paper and more like memory. I told myself I would leave it and go. No drama, no conversation, no strange attachment to a stranger. I opened the door. She was awake, hazel eyes, hollow cheeks, no smile, just a woman looking at me like I had entered the middle of her last thought. I panicked, actually panicked. I set the book on the chair and turned to leave like some weird book-dropping criminal. "Wait," she said. Her voice was weak, but it stopped me cold. I turned slowly. "Was it you?" she asked. I did not even try to lie. "Yeah." "The flowers, too?" "Yeah." She studied me for a long time, long enough to make my skin feel too tight. "You keep bringing things to the wrong room a lot," she asked, and somehow that made me smile. "Only twice," I said, "so I'm hoping this is the end of a trend." For the first time her mouth moved like she was trying not to laugh. Then she asked the question I did not want. "Why?" I looked at the empty chair, the bare windowsill, the book in her hands, and because I was too tired to invent a cleaner answer, I told the truth. Because no one should be this alone. The words hung there between us. Her face changed, not soft, not warm, wounded, like I had reached into a place she had worked very hard not to touch. "You don't know me," she said. "No. You don't know if I deserve this." I should have walked out then. I should have protected both of us. Instead I said, "I don't think that's how kindness works." She stared at me so hard I forgot how to breathe. Then she looked down at the book, touched the damaged corner with 2 fingers, and asked in a voice that barely held together, "If I ask you not to come back, would you listen?" I wish I could say I knew the answer. I wish I could say leaving was still possible. But standing there in that quiet room, looking at a woman I had met by accident and already could not stop thinking about, I realized the real danger was not that she might ask me to stay. It was that part of me already had. I did go back. Not the next day. The next morning I tried very hard to be a reasonable man. I packed Lily's lunch. I signed a reading log. I answered 3 client emails and pretended fonts were an urgent matter. I even told myself out loud, "You are not going to the hospital again." At 2:15, I was in the parking garage. I hated that about grief. It made liars out of people who used to trust themselves. When I reached Claire's room, I stopped outside the door and stood there longer than I should have. I did not have flowers this time. No gift. No excuse in my hand, just me. That felt worse. I knocked. Her voice came a second later. "Come in." She was awake, sitting up a little more than before. The book I had left was on the tray table beside her, folded open face down. "You came back anyway," she said. Her tone was dry but not cruel. "I did." "You don't listen well." "I listen fine, I just don't always obey." That earned me the smallest look of disbelief. Not quite amusement, not quite warning. "Dangerous trait," she said. "I've been told." I stayed near the door. She noticed. You can sit down, she said, unless your whole thing is lurking. I looked at the chair, the same chair that had been empty the first day. The same chair that now felt like a line I would cross if I touched it. Still, I sat. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The room hummed around us, machines, air vent, hallway noise far away. It was strange how quickly silence could stop feeling empty when another person was willing to stay inside it with you. She looked thinner in daylight, stronger too somehow, like weakness had sharpened her instead of erasing her. "I'm Claire," she said at last. I nodded. "Ethan." "I know. That caught me off guard, you know. One of the nurses said your daughter called yesterday." I frowned. My daughter called. She asked if the flower lady liked stories about stars. I closed my eyes. Of course Lily had done that. The nurse must have found my number on the visitor sheet at Tom's room. Or maybe Tom had helped. Either way, I could already hear my daughter's matter-of-fact voice in my head. "Do you like stars? My dad is weird but nice." When I looked back at Claire, there was a faint shift in her face, the first real softness I had seen there. "She sounds brave," Claire said. "She's 7. That's basically the same thing as reckless." Claire's mouth moved again, almost a smile. "Did you answer her question?" I said yes, she said. "I do like stars." Lily would have loved that. I should have felt embarrassed. Maybe I did, but under the embarrassment was something else. Relief. The kind that sneaks in when two broken parts of your life touch and nothing shatters. "She talks too much when she's nervous," I said. "So do you." I let out a breath that might have been a laugh. "That obvious?" "Very." Then her face changed again, seriousness coming back in. "You still haven't answered my question." I knew exactly which one she meant. "Why are you here?" This time I tried to do better than the truth I had given before. "Because no one should be alone" was honest, but it was not complete. I looked down at my hands. "My wife died 6 months ago," I said. "Cancer." Claire did not flinch, did not reach for pity, did not offer the soft lies people use when they want pain to move along. She just waited. "Toward the end," I said, "our room was never empty. Family, friends, nurses who stayed longer than they had to. My daughter curled up beside her even when I thought she shouldn't have to see any of it." I swallowed once. "Rebecca was loved all the way to the end." Loudly. "Constantly." Claire's eyes stayed on mine. "And when I opened your door that first day," I said, "I saw the opposite of that." The words landed harder than I wanted. She looked away first. "You thought I looked pathetic." "No. Abandoned then." I leaned forward before I could stop myself. "I thought you looked like somebody should have been there." For a moment I thought she might ask me to leave. Instead she stared at the blanket over her legs and said, very quietly, "They were. At first." I said nothing. That was all it took. She kept talking. "A sister who believes positive thinking is a medical treatment. Friends who said call me anytime and meant it for about 2 weeks. An ex-husband who mailed a card with no return address, which felt impressive in a very depressing way." She gave a small shrug. "People get tired of sick rooms. I can't even blame them." I wanted to say they were wrong, cowards, selfish, but grief had taught me something ugly. Sometimes people do leave because they are cruel. Sometimes they leave because they are scared, and the second kind hurts almost as much. "You can blame them a little," I said. That got the first real laugh out of her. It was weak, short, but real. It changed the room. She shook her head. "You have a daughter." "Lily." "How old?" 7. She called a dying stranger to ask about stars. "Yeah." Claire looked down at the book on her tray table and touched the cover again. "Was this your wife, S?" "Yes." "That seems important." "It is." "Then why give it away?" "Because Rebecca would have wanted the book in living hands. Because I could not keep turning our whole house into a museum. Because something in me had panicked at the thought of Claire dying with nothing personal near her. But the answer that came out was simpler. Because she loved it," I said, "and I thought maybe it deserved one more reader." Claire's throat moved. "You talk about your wife like she's still in the room." Sometimes she is. That silence again. Only this one felt deeper, less guarded. When Claire finally looked at me, I saw it. Recognition, not of my story, of the weight inside it. You still talk to her, she said. I laughed once under my breath. That obvious too. Yes. What gave me away? You look like a man who still says things into empty kitchens. That hit so hard I had to look away because she was right. I talked to Rebecca while making coffee, while folding Lily's socks, while staring at bills I did not understand. I asked impossible questions, ordinary ones too. Where did you put the extra batteries? How do I tell our daughter that missing you is not the same as losing her mind? How am I supposed to do this for the rest of my life? She was the easy part of my life, I said before I could stop myself. Claire blinked. I laughed bitterly. Not easy. We fought. She stole my fries and pretended she didn't. She once didn't speak to me for a whole afternoon because I forgot our anniversary dinner reservation. I shook my head. But loving her was easy. Losing her is the part I'm bad at. Claire's voice dropped even lower. I'm bad at the other side. The other side. Being the one people lose. That one stayed with me. It did not sound dramatic. It sounded old, practiced, like she had been carrying that sentence alone for a long time. Before I could answer, the door opened and a nurse stepped in with meds in a bright voice that did not fit the room. The moment broke. Claire went quiet. I stood up automatically, already halfway back into myself. You can stay, the nurse said. Claire's eyes flicked to me. I waited. After the nurse left, she looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. I should go, I said. She gave one slow nod. I moved toward the door, then stopped. Lily drew you something, I said. Claire frowned. What? I pulled the folded paper from my back pocket. I had almost forgotten I shoved it there that morning after Lily chased me out the door with it. It was a messy drawing of 3 stars, a crooked yellow flower, and 2 stick figures holding hands beside what might have been a hospital bed or a spaceship. With Lily, those could be the same thing. At the bottom, in giant uneven letters, she had written, "For the flower lady. So you do not feel scary alone." Claire took it from me like it was breakable. She stared at it for so long I thought maybe I had made a mistake. Then she pressed her lips together, looked out the window, and whispered, "Your daughter tells the truth in rude little ways." She does. Claire kept looking at the drawing. Ethan. Yeah. The room felt suddenly smaller, more dangerous. Next time, she said, still staring at the page, bring her with you. That should have felt like hope. Instead, it felt like a door opening too fast. Because if Lily walked into this room, then Claire would no longer be a stranger. And if Claire stopped being a stranger, losing her would stop being hypothetical. I stood there with my hand on the doorknob, my pulse loud in my throat, knowing the answer mattered more than she realized. Then I said yes anyway. Bringing Lily to meet Claire felt wrong. Not immoral, not reckless in the obvious way, just dangerous. There are some risks you can explain to yourself. Money, time, bad decisions. But there are other risks that do not sound serious until they break you. Letting your child love someone fragile was one of those. All that night I told myself no. No, because Lily had already buried one woman she loved. No, because Claire was still weak, still in a hospital bed, still speaking in that calm voice people use when they are trying not to sound afraid. No, because I had no right to invite my daughter into something I did not understand myself. At breakfast the next morning, Lily solved the problem by becoming Lily. Are we seeing the flower lady today? I looked up too fast. Who told you we were seeing anybody? She kept eating cereal. Your face. My face told you that. Yep. What exactly did my face say? She shrugged. It said you're pretending to think about work, but really you're thinking about her. There should be classes for children who come preloaded with emotional weapons. I reached for my coffee. You're very dramatic. No, she said, very calm. I'm observant. Mom said there's a difference. That one hit clean. Rebecca used to say that all the time. I looked at my daughter across the table, one sock on, one sock missing, of course, hair half brushed, milk on her upper lip. 7 years old and already saying things that made me feel seen in ways I was not prepared for. She asked about you, I said carefully. Lily's eyes lit up. Really? Really? Did she like my drawing? She kept it. That was all it took. Lily slid out of her chair and ran upstairs before I could add conditions, caution, or basic parental structure. I heard drawers opening, closet doors slamming, the unmistakable sound of a child packing for an emotional mission she had already decided would succeed. When she came back down, she had her backpack on. "You're bringing your whole school bag?" "No," she said, offended, "just the important parts." The important parts turned out to be a folder of constellation drawings, 3 crayons, a granola bar, 1 plastic astronaut, and the stuffed rabbit she only brought when she thought someone might be sad. That undid me a little. On the drive to the hospital, Lily asked normal kid questions in a normal kid voice. Does Claire like chocolate? Can people in hospitals watch cartoons? If someone is sick, does that mean they are bored all the time? The ordinary shape of her questions should have comforted me. It did not, because beneath every one of them was the thing she was not asking. Is this person safe to love? I parked and turned in my seat to face her. Listen to me, Bug. She nodded, serious now. Claire is sick, very sick. So today you let her talk when she wants to talk and you let her rest when she looks tired, okay? Okay. And no climbing on anything. No touching wires, no pressing buttons. She looked offended again. I know how hospitals work. You absolutely do not. I do a little. I smiled despite myself. Then her face changed, softened. Dad. Yeah. Are you scared? That one took a second. I could have lied, said no, said grown-ups are fine, said I was just being careful. Instead, I looked at her and told her the truth in a size she could carry. A little. Me too, she said. I reached back and squeezed her shoe. We can be brave and scared at the same time. She thought about that and nodded. Like astronauts. Exactly like astronauts. When we walked into Claire's room, she was sitting up with her hair pulled back, like she had spent real energy trying to look more alive than she felt. That got me before anything else. She had prepared, for us, for Lily. The drawing was taped beside her bed. I stopped at the door. Lily did not. She stepped forward, looked right at Claire, and said, "Hi, I'm Lily. I'm sorry my dad is weird." Claire blinked once, then laughed, a real laugh, rusty, surprised, but real. "Hi, Lily," she said. "I'm Claire. I'm sorry your dad is weird, too." That was it. Something in the room gave way after that. Lily climbed into the visitor's chair like she belonged there. Not careless, not wild, just certain in the way children are when they decide a person matters. She took out her folder and began explaining stars to Claire with full authority. "Okay, this one is Orion, but I made him less scary because the real story is rude." "The real story is rude?" Claire asked. "Yes, a lot of old stories are rude. Dad says history is mostly people behaving badly with better clothes." I put a hand over my face. Claire looked at me, amused. "That does sound like something you'd say." I did not know I was being quoted in public now. "You are," Lily said, "because you say useful things by accident." That was Rebecca too. Not the words, the rhythm of them, the fearless, crooked wisdom. For 30 minutes I barely spoke. I just watched. Watched Claire ask questions like Lily's answers mattered. Watched Lily pull the plastic astronaut from her bag and place it beside Claire's water cup like a bodyguard. Watched the color in Claire's face change each time my daughter talked to her as if illness was true but not final. Then Lily did what children always do. She walked straight into the center of the truth. "Are you going to die?" she asked. The room went still. I felt my whole body lock. "Lily." "No," Claire said gently, eyes still on her. "It's okay." No, it was not okay. It was the question I had been dodging in every form since this began. From myself, from Claire. From God, if God was listening. Claire folded her hands over the blanket. "I might," she said. I shut my eyes. but Lily just nodded slowly like she respected honesty when she heard it. "My mom died," she said, "so I know people say weird things when they don't want to tell the truth." Claire's eyes moved to mine for 1 second, then back to Lily. "I don't want to say weird things," Claire said. "Good." Lily leaned forward in her chair. "Did it make you scared?" "Yes," Claire said. "Are you still scared?" A pause. "Yes." Lily considered that. Then she climbed out of the chair, walked to the side of the bed, and held out her stuffed rabbit, not offering it forever, just for now. "This helps," she said. "No child should know how to do that. No child should know when another human being needs comfort more than words." Claire took the rabbit with both hands like it weighed something holy. "Thank you," she whispered. Lily nodded, satisfied, and climbed back into the chair like they had just completed a normal exchange between two people who understood the same language. I had to look away. I was not crying. Not exactly. But there was pressure behind my eyes that made the room blur at the edges. After a while, Claire got tired. I could see it before she said it, the slight drag in her voice, the way her fingers stopped moving, the way illness always came back to collect its debt. "We should go," I said. Lily stood at once. No complaint, no argument. She walked to the bed, looked at Claire for a second, then did one of the bravest things I have ever seen. She hugged her. Gently, carefully, completely. I saw Claire freeze, then melt. Her eyes closed. Her hand moved to the back of Lily's head. It lasted maybe 3 seconds, maybe 30, I do not know. What I know is this. When Lily stepped back, Claire looked wrecked in the quietest way. And when we reached the door, she said my name. "Ethan." I turned. Her voice was rough now. "Thank you for bringing her." I nodded once because I did not trust my mouth. Then Lily waved and said, "Bye, Claire. You can keep the rabbit until tomorrow." Tomorrow, such a small word, such a dangerous one, because when my daughter said it, she said it like a fact. Like she had already decided Claire belonged in a future tense. And standing there with one hand on the doorknob, watching a dying woman hold a child's rabbit to her chest like it had given her permission to keep going, I felt the fear hit me all at once. Not fear of death, fear of hope. Because hope had just entered that room wearing mismatched socks, and I had no idea how to protect any of us from what came next. Hope is cruel when you have already made peace with losing. That was the first thing Claire said to me 3 days after Lily gave her the rabbit. She looked stronger. That was the problem. Not healthy, not safe, not magically healed, just stronger enough to scare both of us. Her cheeks had a little more color. She was sitting higher in the bed. The nurse who came in that afternoon smiled too easily, like she knew something we did not. I stood by the window and watched Claire watch the door after the nurse left. "What?" I asked. She kept staring at the empty hallway. "They're acting strange." Strange good or strange bad? She looked back at me. That's the kind of question people ask when they already know bad is possible. Bad was always possible. That was the rule in rooms like this. I sat down beside the bed and handed her the coffee I had brought, the good kind from the shop 2 blocks away. She held the cup between both hands but did not drink it. "I had blood work this morning," she said. "Okay." "And scans yesterday." I felt my back go stiff. She noticed. "See," she said quietly, "hope is cruel." Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door and Dr. Patel walked in with a file in one hand and a face that knew how to carry both good news and grief. My heartbeat turned strange. Claire looked at her first. I looked at Claire. I do not remember Dr. Patel sitting down, only the sentence that came next. "The tumors are shrinking." The whole room changed. Not dramatically. Not in some movie way where everything turns bright and music starts. It changed like ice cracking. Like a thing we had both held still inside ourselves suddenly moved. Claire did not speak. Neither did I. Dr. Patel kept talking. Treatment response. Unusual progress. Careful optimism. More tests. More monitoring. No guarantees. No guarantees. That part I heard clearly. But all I could think was shrinking. Not spreading. Not failing. Not ending. Shrinking. When Dr. Patel left, Claire stared at the blanket over her legs like she did not trust her own body anymore. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "Do what?" She laughed once and there was no joy in it. Live. That answer stayed in the room between us, because I knew exactly what she meant. When Rebecca died, people talked to me like survival was automatic. Like if my lungs still worked and my heart still beat, then I would just continue. But survival and living are not the same thing. One is what your body does. The other is what your heart risks. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "You don't have to know how yet." Claire looked at me with tears she was trying hard not to let fall. "What if I already said goodbye to everything?" She asked. "What if I made peace with ending because it was easier than starting over?" "Then we start there." "We." The question was small, but it hit big. I should have been careful. I should have protected the distance between us. I should have remembered my wife had been dead less than a year and my daughter was just beginning to laugh without looking guilty after. Instead, I told the truth. "Yes," I said. "We." Her face broke then, not loudly. No sobbing, no dramatic collapse, just tears sliding down the face of a woman who had spent too long preparing to disappear. I moved before I thought better of it. I took her hand, thin, cold, real, and she held on. The next weeks felt unreal in the quietest ways. Claire started physical therapy. She hated it. I know that because she told me every single day. "This is humiliating," she muttered the first time I saw her take 6 shaking steps with a therapist on one side and a metal walker in front of her. "It's 6 more steps than yesterday," I said. "I liked you better when you brought books and left." That version of me was deeply immature. She almost smiled. That became our rhythm. She walked, I counted. She got angry, I stayed. Some days Lily came too and clapped like Claire had won the Olympics for making it from the bed to the door. "Again," Lily would say, eyes bright. And Claire, exhausted and sweating and half annoyed, would do it again. One Thursday afternoon, I found the stuffed rabbit tucked beside Claire's pillow. "You still have that," I said. She touched one ear with her fingertip. "It's temporary." "Mummy." She said it helps. "Does it?" Claire looked at me for a long second before answering. "Yes." I wanted to say something clever. I wanted to keep things light. Instead, I sat down and admitted what had been growing in me for weeks. "Lily asked about you this morning." Claire went still. "What did you tell her?" "That you were getting stronger." And that stronger doesn't mean easy." She nodded once. Then I gave her the part I had not planned to say. "She asked if you'd still be in our lives when you got out." Claire looked away. The silence after that was not empty, it was terrified. "She shouldn't ask questions like that," Claire said. "She's 7, that's basically all she does." "No, Ethan." Claire's voice thinned. "She shouldn't get attached to someone who still might vanish." I felt something harden inside me then. Not anger at her, anger at the fear talking through her. "She already is attached." Her eyes snapped back to mine. "And so am I said. There it was, no clean way back, no safe version left. The air changed between us. "Ethan," she whispered, "I know. Your wife is still my wife in all the ways that matter." Claire's throat moved. "And you," I said, forcing myself not to look away, "are not a betrayal." That made her cry again, quietly, like before. I think that was the moment everything became honest. Not romantic yet, not spoken in pretty words, just honest. A few days later, Dr. Patel said Claire could be discharged soon if her progress held. Soon. Another dangerous word. I should have felt simple relief. Instead, I panicked. Because hospitals are cruel, but they are also clear. They tell you who is sick, who is healing, who is staying, who is leaving. Outside those walls, life gets messier, realer, harder to define. That night after Lily went to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table staring at a list I had made without meaning to. Guest room, groceries, meds, follow-up rides, extra pillows. I was halfway through adding tea she likes when I heard Lily behind me. She was barefoot, hair wild, rabbitless because it was still at the hospital. "What are you doing?" she asked. I turned the paper over too late. She climbed into the chair beside me and read the upside-down page anyway. Is Claire coming here? What? Children should never be able to ask huge questions in tiny voices. I looked at her. She might need a place to stay while she gets stronger. Lily thought about that for maybe 1 second. Okay. Okay. Yes, she yawned. She can have the guest room, but tell her Mr. Whiskers scratches if she steals his chair. I stared at my daughter, this small person with her mother's brave heart and impossible calm. That's all you have to say. She shrugged. She looks less lonely when you're there, Lily said, and you look less sad when you come home. Then she slid out of the chair and walked back toward the stairs like she had not just said the truest thing anyone had said to me in months. I sat there in the kitchen with tears in my eyes and a grocery list in my hand. The day Claire left the hospital, she stood at the front door of my house with one small bag, Lily's rabbit tucked under her arm and fear written all over her face. I opened the door wider. She looked at me like she still might turn around. You don't have to be ready, I told her. For what? For all of it. Lily appeared behind me before Claire could answer. She held up a new drawing, 3 stars, a yellow flower, a crooked little house. And 3 stick figures this time, not 2, 3. Claire saw it, then looked at Lily, then at me, and something in her face gave way, not fear, not grief, permission. She stepped inside. That was the beginning, not because everything got easy. It didn't, not because fear vanished. It didn't. Not because loss stopped mattering. It never would. It was the beginning because after all that death and all that loneliness and all the ways we had each learned to expect the worst, one person still chose to stay. Then another did, then another. And sometimes that is how a life gets rebuilt. Not by miracles, by witnesses, by the ones who keep showing up after the hard truth, by the ones who enter by mistake and love you on purpose. He opened the wrong door, and that is how we found our way home.